So the way the evening's going to go is you can see here I've got 6 total slides. I've broken up the questions into 3 categories: uh, team management and coaching, competitions, and technical robot questions. So I'm going to go over these, the questions that have been submitted, and then answer any other questions that you guys have in each category. So let's start with team and coaching. Um, and I've emailed earlier today sharing this PowerPoint with everybody. It's a Google Doc, so some of you I know have problems opening that. Um, there's really nothing in this PowerPoint that you won't be able to see. I do include a few links, but I can send this out as an email when I'm done if you really want this this link. So here's what I'll do: is a lot of the answers are going to be I'm going to tell you the answers, then I'm going to show you where to find the answers so that you've got all that down. So when we're done talking, you know where to find everything. So, been getting a lot of questions on where do you get team t-shirts and what logos do we use. So a lot of my answers are going to be on our robot, TechPoint Foundation for Youth robot page. So I'm going to load this. So under robotics, there is a section called team t-shirts. And I think when I'm clicking through here, it goes a little bit slower on your end, wait for it to catch up. But anyway, I've got a page right here where you can order shirts right here, order team apparel. Or if you're going to use your own t-shirt person in town, you can click right here and it opens up a Google Drive folder of all of the links, logos that you need. And there's only 3. There's Guggenheim is now iWit. I just wanted to be clear on that. So here's the iWit one. I could put it like this so you can see it. Here's the iWit one. Here is the DWD. Here is our logo. And then here's kind of a sample of what it looks like. You don't have to use this exact model, but just an example of iWit is Indie Women in Tech. That's now our major Guggenheim sponsor, and then DWD and TechPoint Youth. Now, if you did receive a Girl Power grant, you can get the Girl Power REC logo. I'm just going to Google REC Robotics team, logo, and they have a page. Oh, I just clicked on the wrong one, maybe. Sorry, it was right down here.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah, I think I clicked on the wrong one, so let me back up. It's right here, logos and other graphics. It has the REC logos and the Girl Power logos all right here. So if you did get a Girl Power grant, I believe they asked you to put that on there. Someone asked if you should put your team number on the shirt. I would say yeah, because I think that kind of shows what school you're. I think I usually on the front of the shirt, I tell the teams, put your team name, put the logo that you guys might have, and then put the team number, and that just kind of shows unity. People ask, do you need to have team t-shirts? My opinion, yeah, it's just like a football team or basketball team. You want to make sure that your kids are in a jersey or uniform representing. So yeah, I think they should have shirts. All right, moving on. How can I connect with other schools in my area? So going back to our page on the robot map, we try to keep this updated as much as possible. I bet it's 95% accurate. Teams are adding and subtracting all the time. So it's kind of hard to make it 100% accurate, but all these little blue dots are VEX IQ teams. So if you're elementary or middle, you could zoom in here and let's just say you live in, we'll say Muncie. So if you live right here on the south side of Muncie, these schools are all VEX IQ teams. So you could click on it and it'll say Southview Elementary. Maybe you know that person is, maybe you don't. If you don't, you can email me, George at TechPoint Youth, and say, hey, can you put me in touch with Southview Elementary? And I'll email you and put you in touch with them. Please take advantage of this. I think it's really valuable for you to be talking with the other schools in your area for scrimmages, for sharing practices together, sharing parts, fields, volunteering at local events, things like that. So get to know your neighboring coaches. Getting questions on what grade levels can be on our team. So you either got an elementary grant or a middle school grant from us. If you got an elementary grant, then you are most likely an elementary robotics team or school. If you got a middle school grant, you're probably a middle school. And I've just took this language right out of the REC manual for the game this year. And it basically says an elementary school student, and this is just copy and paste from it, is anyone enrolled in 5th grade or lower, or enrolled in 6th grade that has a school that includes 5 but not 7. I know that's kind of difficult to read, but an example would be like a 4 through 6 or a 5 through 6. If they don't have a 7th grade in your school, then you could be in elementary. Now, your elementary kids could always compete at a middle school level, but a middle school student cannot compete at an elementary level. So you can always, it's like JV could go up against varsity. Varsity can't go and beat up the JV.
Yeah, but George, I need to mention that an elementary team itself cannot register for a middle school event.
Correct.
It's got to be.
That is a good point. Yep. You would have to register your team for the appropriate elementary team to compete at an elementary or middle school team to compete at a middle school event. Any questions on that? Type fast. Moving on. How do you order the field and game pieces or extra parts, really? So just to remember from the very beginning when I started the training, I basically explained there's 3 parties that deal with 3 different things. TechPoint Foundation for Youth, all we do is hand out grants and try to support you throughout the year. Then there is VEX, who sells the parts. That's where I'll take you to their website. And then there's REC. VEX sells the plastic parts. We'll go to their website right now. Whereas REC, Robotic Education Competition Foundation, that's who Randy works for. They are the ones where you register your team from, register additional team, register for a competition, things like that. So I'm going to go right here to VEX Robotics. And I'm going to show you just a few common things people purchase or buy. So clicking on VEX IQ, so there's EDR, there's VEX Pro, there's a variety of different things. We're just going to click on VEX IQ. This almost changes the header. Everything's kind of a bluish color now. And then I'm just going to go to Shop All Products. And the question is, where do you find the game pieces and field? Under competition products, this is the element set, which most of you probably already have at this point. And this is the field. So you guys are all new teachers in this room. So if you haven't purchased a field, this is what you can reuse every single year. This is just for this year's game. And this is what changes each year. Okay, so let me dive into this really quick. The field, or the, I'm sorry, game and element kits. This is $99.99, $100, and you get everything here, which is the entire field. I do get questions. Do I have to take this to my first competition? No, you do not. But it wouldn't hurt to take a hub or two so that you can practice during the day if you want to test things in the pits.
George, let me chime in. In fact, most event partners would prefer you don't bring your fields because they would not have the space for them.
Exactly. Yep. You usually get a really small, like 6 foot by 6 foot area. Now, this is the perimeter and field. This is the full field. So down here, it says half and full. Half is that, literally half of it. And that one is $100. You want the full field, which is $200. So this is all on VEX's website. It's where you can get that. If there's any other questions, go ahead and type them up there. Let me just show you some other things I would say that are common things that people buy. So I'm going to go to product overview. We purchased the foundation kit for all of you. That's a really nice add-on. But in there, if you just wanted to buy just, we'll say extra beams, something like that. So there's the kits. I'm just going to go to accessories. And I am getting a lot of questions, and I emailed all of you that are affected by this. The Super VEX IQ Super kits are on an 8-week back order. which is causing just a lot of problems. And I put this very long apologetic email together for those of you that have been affected by this last week, to kind of help answer your questions on that. So I'm not going to talk about that too much. Structure. So here's the foundation add-on kit. This contains almost everything that's in the VexIQ kit that you started with, plus extras, and it's just extra parts for $80. I mean, this is a really good product for 80 bucks that gets you almost everything you would need minus electronics. So it doesn't have a remote or a brain or motors. So a lot of people like the competition add-on because it has 2 extra motors and Omni wheels. In my opinion, I think the only thing valuable in this kit that you would probably want would maybe be the Omni wheels, and you can buy those for like $10 or $20 versus $100. And most first-year teams do not use the full 6 motors they need. 4 came in the super kit. That's probably all you'll need. I'm sorry, I'm at home and my dogs like to bark, so you're going to get some dog background noise. But anyway, scrolling down, they sell the beams in sets. So this is a set right here. You get all of this for $10. You can't buy one item. Sorry, I'm going to try to hide.
You also get them in different colors too.
Yeah, and you can buy extra colors for a little bit of extra money. But you can't just go in and buy one 2x4 beam. You have to buy them in a pack. But, I mean, you get a lot for not a lot of money. So anyway.
You got a couple questions there, George.
Yeah. Still waiting on Girl Power Grant kit. So I'm going to throw that at Randy's way, but I already know what his answer is going to be. Remember, Girl Power grants are REC grants, so they probably purchased those when they awarded the grant for you, and it's an 8-week window on those. Randy could get you specific exactly when you place the order, but
the order. Yeah, they will know if they look on their when their team became paid. That's the date. That's when the date started, when it became paid. Okay. So look at that, and then it's 8 weeks after that. And then if you don't have it, contact George and myself. We do have the contact information for Vex Sales.
Yeah. And again, I mean, I apologize. We have been really trying hard to get those as fast to Indiana teams as fast as we can, but it's just been a difficult process for everyone. Okay. Questions are, can I attend an event without participating? I'll answer this the same way I did at the competition. Yes, you can go to a competition. Any competition in Indiana is free to attend, regardless of you competing or not. However, what I usually say is, if you're able to take your students and your robot and compete, and there's room and there's availability and you can make it happen, I would suggest that. Now, if you did get an email from me saying you're on an 8-week back order and you don't have your robot, but you have your kids and they're all excited, if there's an event near you in November, December, and you don't think you're going to have your kit in time and able to build in things, yeah, I think that'd be a wonderful little field trip on a Saturday to take your students to a competition to see what it's all about and check it out. That would be really advantageous for both the coaches that have never been to a competition and the students. And I've even put in my email as a suggestion, you can look on what schools are going to be at that event and see if they would allow you to kind of shadow them, or stop by and allow your kids to check out their pit. I mean, you can walk in the pit without knowing anyone, just introduce yourself, but you might consider saying, oh, I didn't realize that the other school in my district is going to be at this competition. Email them and say, hey, do you mind if we stop by and cheer you on or something like that? It's always kind of nice to know someone at a competition so you can answer questions or ask questions. Fundraising ideas. So
George, can I say one more thing along that line?
Yeah.
Whether or not you qualify for state, you ought to plan on going to state at Lucas Oil Stadium. I'll let George talk more about that for a couple minutes here, but there's not going to be any entry fee. You just walk right in there for that event.
Okay. Randy, there's a question about, do I need a participation release form for every event or just one?
It's every event, but you can enter them online now, and you don't have to sit there and do it for every single event now. They've got a mechanism for the event where you just, like I say, you just like an email. You just put them in. You just enter 'em.
Yeah. So I think the event part, I think it automatically sends that to you, doesn't it, Randy?
Yes,
Once you,
yes, they'll get to, yes.
yeah. So, um, questions of how do you practice for competitions or how do you prepare? So I'm going to point you to a couple of links and I put them at the end of my PowerPoint, but show you where you can get them. This is just a reminder on our robot resource page. We have 4 valuable sections in here about coaching, competitions, robot specific resources, and hosting events. So open up any of these. I'm going to go to competition links because the question is how do I prepare? And in here, under event related, I have a really valuable document that says 101 things I wish I knew before my first competition. And there are tips for preparing for an event. So these are 2 PDF documents that I think have a lot of valuable information that 101 items on here. Not all of them are going to pertain to you, but a lot of them are I think are going to be really valuable for to look over. So that's a good doc to look at and preparing for your first event. This is a good document to look at. But as far as specifics on what a coach or team should do at practices, I strongly recommend making sure that all the students on the team know the rules. I think all the students that are going to be driving have had plenty of practice. I consider preparing for a competition is the same way you would for basketball. You've got to make sure you shoot your free throws. So in this game, you have to make sure your kids know how to push the hub into the corner, push the hub in the corner, like practice over and over, push it in the corner, push in the corner. Now, stacking, pick up, stack, practice just that one thing. What a lot of students like to do is practice the full minute over and over and over again. But I say, as a basketball coach, you don't play a full game at practice. You practice one skill over and over until they perfect that, and then you bring another skill into play and you connect them together. So practice picking up, practice picking up, practice picking up and placing, practice picking up and placing, and then just progress along that way. So those are things I would suggest you do. But things that you need to think about as a coach if you do have competitions coming up is permission slips, whatever the protocol is for your school, getting transportation to those schools. And then I usually suggest if you have 2 or 3 teams, I would find an adult responsible for each team at your event. So if you're a single coach and you have 3 teams, it will be very, very difficult for you to try to be in so many places at once at an event. It's almost impossible. It happens, and coaches do it, but they have a I'll say stressful experience. So see if you find a parent, an assistant principal, another teacher to be in charge of each team, because if you have 2 teams going to an event, you'll have one team on one side of the gym or field, one will be in the pits, one will be at skills, and it's hard to be in so many places at once. So make sure that you have multiple people helping support your team at a competition. How to limit? So this is a big question I've been getting, and I don't have an answer for you. But there are things that I've already told you about as far as how do you limit your team. I don't think you have a school-wide call out. I don't think you let your entire school know that you're going to start a robotics team their very first year. I think you individually invite a handful of students, of your own students, or maybe 3 or 4 of your own, 3 or 4 from the teacher across the hall or the assistant coach's school or classroom, and that's your team. It's an individual basis of sending out an invitation. And then, if other parents are like, well, why didn't I get a chance to sign up? You could say, right now it's full, but next year we'll look at to expand it to larger. And you could ask that parent, I need more people to help. Would you be interested in being an assistant coach? Something like that. So I don't have a good answer for you because it's not an easy thing to do. And unfortunately, I didn't limit my team size, and I had too big of a team, and it was difficult to manage, and it was difficult to fundraise for a team that size. So I don't have good suggestions, but you could always think about there's always the good ways to in the classroom doing hands-on activities and seeing what students enjoy doing. Someone asked, is there a way to access Coach's Corner without Facebook? No, unfortunately not. But there is the Vex IQ forum that you could use, which isn't part of Facebook, but those are just all Vex IQ coaches. It's the same sort of discussions. The Coach's Corner is just for Indiana. So it was the only easy way that we knew how to have a private group online. I know not everyone has Facebook, but you could ask if you have any sons or daughters that are on Facebook to see if you can, have them join, and you can look that way. Ideal number of a team, I usually say 6 to 8 students for a team, 6 to 8. Last year, our average team size was 12.25, which is, in my opinion, too large for one team. So, how do we sign up for a competition? Well, I could walk you through step by step, but I don't need to because I have a video for that. So going back to robot resources, I'm going to go to coaching and see here, right here.
Hey, George, what are you looking for? Do you also have the referee videos there?
Yeah, they are on here. So
Okay.
under robot coaching resources, it's going to say how to sign up for a competition. So this is a YouTube video. I'm going to try to stop it.
Hi, I'm George Giltner from Tech Point Foundation for Youth.
Sorry.
And I'm going to show you today how to register.
Won't let me pause it. There we go. So this is me walking you through several different ways on how to find an event and how to sign up for an event on robot events. So these are all Indiana competitions, and it goes through the list on how to sign up for a competition. So that's the easiest way. So just go to robot coaching, team related, how to sign up for a competition. Randy was asking, do I have the referee videos? So there is a, let's see here. You know what, Randy? I think I have it on my YouTube page, but
Okay.
I got it on here. But Vex has a, I'll send that link out at the end.
Yeah. It's in the REC website too, but yeah.
State qualifier. So someone asked, first year, can I sign up for an event that says state qualifier? To answer your question, yeah. Almost all events on there are state qualifiers unless they're just scrimmages.
Just got a call from Cousin Bruce at our Aunt Virginia and Anderson died yesterday. Services this Saturday. We'll talk to you guys more when back in town Wednesday.
Oh, I'm not sure what that was. At this point in the season, what should I be focusing on in order to prepare for my team's first competition? So I think I already kind of went over that already on what I need to do to prepare, but I guess I put that in two different places. So this was a coach saying, or a couple coaches saying they haven't bought the field yet. How do I practice without the field? Remember, we at the training, we gave you a welcome kit that contained one hub, so you could practice with the one hub. I measured it today. It's about a little over 4 inches tall. What I didn't measure, I was just thinking before this, I think maybe a toilet paper roll might be close to the size of a hub. I don't know if that's true or not, but if you have the one hub, that can at least help you modify your robot to try to pick up and to carry it. What I was getting at with the toilet paper roll is it'd be nice for you to have something the same height, so something about 4 inches off the ground, so that you can practice stacking a hub on top of something 4 inches tall. But I already showed you where you can buy them. I would suggest buying the game pieces. It's going to be the easiest way for your kids to practice. The question is, can students move or touch the robot during a match? So I think what this question is can they physically touch it with their hands? The answer is yes, but there is a procedure. You have to put the remote down on the ground. If they're driving, you have to put the remote down on the ground. And if the robot's in possession of any hubs, they have to take the hubs and put them out of bounds, meaning you can't score those hubs. And then they have to pick up the robot, put it back to start, where the robot started, and then pick up the remote and continue to drive. So skills challenge, this is a good question. It's not very clear, but in skills challenge, can the team pick what side to start on? So let me just put, while I'm doing this, I've got in robot resources, Here's the next level manual. You can start on either side for skills, for driving and for autonomous. In fact, I'm going to scroll down here where your start zones are. In fact, here's your starting position. You can have a program that runs out and gets this hub and pushes it over here, and then pick up your robot if it's not possessing the hub anymore, put it back on the left side, and have a program that goes over here and pushes these hubs. So in an autonomous mode of skills, you can actually start on the left side, pick it up, put it on the right side, pick it up, put it back on the left side. You could go back and forth. Remember, the skills competition is just your team on the field by itself. Okay, let me know if there's any questions of that, please. Let's see here. What can we expect at first competition? So, it's chaos, and I've said this before. This is where I think having an extra helper is going to be help with the stress. So, the most difficult time, in my opinion, is just managing students and making. But I think your number one thing is to get your students on time to their matches. So if you remember, when you go to, let's say you just have one team. If you have just one team, you're going to get a match schedule in the beginning of the day, and you are going to highlight when your matches are. So throughout the day, let's say matches start at 9 o'clock and they go until 2 o'clock. I'll highlight when all 8 matches are, and some teams get a whiteboard or a poster board, and they write what time and what match number all their matches are, and then so your students, everyone on the team knows when and where they are at. All right. So if you're the 5th match, you probably very in the beginning of the day need to get over to the queuing area to get your team ready to go. If you're the 12th match of the day, you probably have time to practice on the practice field. You probably have time to go find the team you're going to be partnered with. You probably have time to get your team, into the stands and ready to cheer on the drivers, and then get your drivers to queuing after a few matches. Every competition is a little bit different. So some events you go to is going to have maybe 2 or 3 fields, and they go one at a time slowly. So they'll have field 1, 2, and 3. Matches start on field 1, and then it's over. You move to field 2, and the next match starts. Then you'll move to 3, and the next match starts. There are some events you'll go to, there'll be 8 fields, and they're doing 2 or 3 at a time. And so 2 or 3 fields go, and then 2 or 3 fields go, and then 2 or 3 fields go. It's all different, and the important thing is getting your kids to the queuing line before their match starts. And the thing I always say is, on the match list, it's going to tell you your time of the match and what match number you are. Time is not always accurate because matches or competitions tend to fall behind. So you can't use time as a good indicator, but you can use what match number they're on. So if you're match 5, what I was saying, you probably need to go queue up early. But if you have 12 matches before yours, you probably have at least 10 to 15 minutes before your match starts. You think every match is a minute, but you also need to know if they're doing 1 match at a time or 2. Let me know if there's any questions on that. But that's the biggest thing, is getting your kids to where they need to be. How would you play this year's game? So the same thing I discussed at the training. I'm going to just pull this up. So let's see if that's a good one. Yeah, I think that. Sorry, I'll go back to this as a demonstration. I usually tell my students to let's think of one thing at a time. What's the first thing we want to do? And the first thing in my mind is figure out how to get a hub into the corner. Let's find out which one is easier for us to do. Is it easier to push in this corner? Is it easier to push in that corner? So we have these discussions of what's our first thing we're going to do when the match starts. Again, there's also 2 places that your robot can start. Let's say you always practice over on this side. Well, you need to think, well, what happens if the team we're with is on the right side and we're placed on the left side? Does that affect our strategy if the first thing is to go over here and push in the corner? So come up with what's the first thing we want to do? We want to push hubs. So let's think of ways that we need to design our robot to push hubs. How many hubs can you push? Well, if you remember, you can only pick up one hub at a time, but you can push as many as you can. So let's maybe we make a scoop in the front that's wide enough that doesn't exceed the boundaries of the size of your robot. And let's see if we can build like kind of a shovel or scoop in the very front that can maybe push 2 hubs at a time. So that is what we're going to do. That's the first thing and first objective. After that, what's the next thing we want to do? Oh, we want to come over here and knock this down and score it and stack it. Okay, well, let's back up. We said we're going to push these in the corner. Now we're going to come over here and knock it down. How are we going to knock that down? How are we going to reach? How tall is our robot? How tall can it be? So you discuss this thing. How are we going to knock this down? That's the very first thing before you ever think about picking up, before you even think about stacking. Almost take the ideas and dissect them into logical sequences of what you do first and what do you move on to next. Okay. Someone asked about the robot boundaries. I'm not sure if you're talking or asking about the size of the robot. But if that's what you're asking, Jody, I've got that right here. It is 20 inches. Robot size. Nope. There we go. Right here. It's at the bottom. So I wanted to use a demonstration so that we're really clear. 11 inches wide by 20, and then 15 inches tall is your boundaries. But it means that your robot, when it fully extends, like it does right here, you have to make sure that it doesn't fully extend past the 20-inch length. So it can never at any time be longer than 20 inches, 11 inches wide. And just for reference, the robot FlexBot is kind of a rectangle, so it's longer than it is wide, but it doesn't mean that your robot has to be longer than wide. But FlexBot is longer than wide, meaning you could have a wide robot and a narrow front and back robot. But 11 by 20 and then 15 inches tall. Once the match starts, it can expand as tall as it wants to. All right. Any other questions? Go ahead and throw them in there. All right. How does the STEM project work? Is it required? I'm not going to get into a long discussion. I'm just going to do VexIQ STEM project 2018. And right here is and I have this on my sheet as well, but this is what the STEM research project is. You can read this if you'd like. I do not suggest. It is not required. I don't recommend doing this your first year. Unless you have 20 kids and one robot and you need things for like 5 or 6 kids to do and you don't know what to do with them, this would be something those kids could do. But if you have a team of 8 and one robot, I would just focus on working on your robot, not worrying about STEM research project. It is different this year, and you're all new teachers, so you don't know the difference, and it tells it right here what is different. What is majorly different this year than last year is that it's a video submission, and that's something you'll want to take a look at. But I'm not going to talk much longer about that. Not required, don't need to worry about it. But it's something different that the kids could work on off to the side. How do engineering notebooks work, and is it required? Again, not required. For your first year, it's neat if your kids want to journal what they do each practice, but they don't need to do it. It's not required. Now there is an award that you can win for your design notebook. There's a few awards that could qualify you if you turn in an engineering notebook. When you go to an event, when you check in, they're gonna say, "Do you have an engineering notebook?" If you don't, that's okay. Don't panic. You don't lose points or anything like that. And so I'm not going to suggest you worry at all about an engineering notebook, but you can do the exact same thing. You can search Vex IQ Engineering Notebook and read all about it and what awards qualify you for the notebook. First year teams, don't worry about it. I'd like to know about hosting a competition. I'm going to tell you to email Randy. That's what I would suggest. I have his email address at the end of the PowerPoint. I'll just tell you right now, we're getting very close to the end of the kind of signing up for competitions. So it's not very likely we'll be adding new event partners that have never hosted an event before. If you're considering hosting an event, I would say maybe if you email Randy and he's like, he's not feeling like there's going to be time for you to put one together because it takes a lot of time and we're here now in November. What would be a good alternative is for you to volunteer at an event to get experience and then talk to the event partner that's hosting that event to see if there's anything that you can help them with. Is there anything you want to add to that, Randy?
Well, they could always do a scrimmage. That's kind of like a practice.
Yeah. You could do a, oh man, my battery's about to die. You could do a scrimmage and Randy could help you with that. It wouldn't count for state, but it would definitely get you and any teams in your area some practice experience. So something to think about. Randy could tell you more about that. Reminder on how the competition flow works. So I've kind of alluded that a little bit as far as you're going to check in the morning. You're going to go to your pit area. You will park your pit there. Your all of your items, your robot, your extra parts. I would suggest bringing your battery chargers. You'll have a little charging station so you can charge your battery between matches. And that's kind of your home base. You'll get your match schedule at some point. Might not be at exactly when you register, but maybe shortly after you'll get a match schedule, and then you'll highlight it, and then what matches you're doing, and then you want to make sure you get your kids a few matches before your round starts. Get your kids in the queuing line, and you'll need 2 drivers there for every match. You'll need to have 2 drivers that know how to drive the robot. They know how to turn it on. They know how to troubleshoot. Everything happens. And the rest of the team will go sit in the stands. You'll have your 2 drivers compete. They drive for 30 seconds. They hand the remote over to the second driver for 30 seconds for a 1-minute match. And then they stop. They don't drive anymore after the 1 minute. Sometimes teams will put the remote down so they're not tempted or accidentally hit a button. Referee will score their match. If they have time, they'll show both teams, this is the score I got, is this what you got? And then the kids will pick up the robot and they'll go head back to the pits. As a coach, something nice that I tell them, grab all your kids in the stands, go back to the pits and cheer on or give them a high five or clap for the 2 drivers that just drove. You can switch drivers every match if you'd like. Some people always have the same 2 drivers. Some people have 6 drivers. And they, Sally and Sarah are always together. Johnny and Jimmy are always together. Ryan and Richard are always together. And so you have three different sets of teams because some kids like to be the starter and some like to be the closer or finisher. So some like to push and stack where the other like to stack and hang or something like that. So anyway, that's kind of the flow. You'll have probably 8 matches and then automatically RAC's software will remove 2 of the lowest scores. I am going to have to venture downstairs to get my battery charger for my computer. I bet I'm going to alarm the dog. So we'll try that out.
The thing you left out is they need inspection. They do that after they check in too.
Yeah. You want to explain that while I sneak downstairs and get my charger?
Yeah. When you first check in, after you go to your pit and everything, before you can start doing matches, you need to get the robot inspected. There is an inspection sheet you can go by. I'll let George show where he's got it on his website, but I know it's in the robotics education website also. But it's just that happens at every event. They have to be inspected that they meet certain criteria in order to be able to compete on that. And part of it's going to be the overall sizes too that they're going to be checking for. But if they're not inspected, they will not be able to compete in the tournament itself.
Yes, and on that note, I have it on my website, but I'm just going to Google search for it because we're kind of running out of time. Vex IQ inspection checklist. You can literally just look at this checklist, to see exactly what they're going to inspect. So Jody, to your question, here is that 11 by 20 by 15 I was talking about. That's the first thing they'll check. And I always tell coaches, make sure you measure your robot before you take it to a competition. It's not that they can't compete. They just have to modify the robot to fit in within these specifications before they can compete. So I would say out of the 900 teams, maybe, I don't know. I'm not going to speculate, but at state last year, we had 300 teams. Every single team made it to the competition. There were several that weren't legal in the morning, but they had to modify the robot to compete. So anyway, that's what you can look through. This is on your that checklist, the tips, things that you should do. Inspection is on this list. So anyway, anything else? Questions? I'm going to move on to the last section. I only have 15 minutes left. There's not a lot on here. So if you're on the Coach's Corner, you saw me post something earlier about how to get more students involved for FlexBot. Some people were saying they're on their third or fourth practice and they haven't made a lot of progress. So I spent like an hour one day breaking down the building of FlexBot. So FlexBot is the robot for this year's game. Here are the instructions on how to build it. It does play this year's challenge. It picks up one hub. It can hang for 2 points. And here's my justification of how you should do this. What I have done is looking at the step-by-step, like Lego instructions. Think of Lego instructions. There's 60 steps to build this robot. I've gone through and broken it up to, there's a section for the drivetrain. There's a section for the appendage and support arm. There's a section for the lifting mechanism and the hanging hook. And what I'm saying is you don't have to have your kids start at step 1 all the way to 64. You can have one group building this, one group building this, one group building this, one group building this, and then this driving group can connect to the appendage group. This group can connect to this, and then this can connect to this. So you have 4 groups working on the robot, and then when they're all done, they bring it together. So anyway, that's just something to consider or think about when you want to get more kids involved and how to speed things up. All right, big question on how to program. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it. I'm going to point you to a resource. So on my robot resource page, I've got VexIQ robot specific resources. And under here it says programming related. There are some really good mod kit is what I would suggest. Very good mod kit tutorials on how to download the software, install the software, download what's called firmware, and then how to start programming. ModKit is probably for this year the best option that I would suggest. Some teams will tell us Robot C is good. It's not bad. It's just there's one that looks easier to use and one's a little more complicated. ModKit's a lot easier to use. Robot C is a little more complicated. So anyway, something to I'm pointing at this. I think Kelly, Mike was asking maybe about programming. I suggest you go here and we had a training session over the summer. I've got a link to those advanced coaching resources on here it's right here on how to program your robot. We went over that this summer. So anyway, someone asked, are iPads compatible? Yes, there is an app called I'm just going to Google it really quick. ModKit iPad Apple. This is it right here. There is an app. You do need to have Bluetooth connected in order to get it to work. I've heard 2 sides of the story. It works great. It doesn't work at all. Like I've heard both sides. Some teachers say it works great. They've used it and they love it. Some have said they've struggled and had problems. It's here. It's available. You can try it out. I've never tried it. I don't know how to answer that, but it is compatible. What is firmware? Do we need to use it? If you want to program your robot, you do need to use what's called firmware. And again, I'm just going to Google it. It's on my website, BexIQ firmware. So firmware, think about your, if you have Windows or PC, every so many months your Windows computer says, I need to update, or your Mac says, I need to reinstall my apps or something like that. It's the same concept for these. They come out with new releases all the time. So if you want to program your robot, you need to download what's called the firmware. And this graphic is perfect. You essentially plug in all your devices, you turn it on, connect it to your computer, and it will tell you in yellow, you can see all those things are yellow. Those devices are not current to the most recent iOS. When you hit installed, they turn green, meaning they're up to date. That's something you need to do only if you program.
Well, there's something I need to mention, George.
Okay.
If for some reason you have a motor that's not working, you think it just went bad, or a port's not working, most likely what it is the firmware for that motor is not the same version as the rest of it, and it would just have to be updated to agree to it to make it work again.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. This is kind of like have you tried turning it off and on? Okay. Have you tried updating the firmware? That's kind of one of our steps as far as if you have a broken piece or something's not talking, you can always go through this process. How often do we need to update the firmware? Well, going back to this website, they said they released October of 18. I also learned over here on the right side, if your team is programming your robot, it wouldn't hurt to do this. You can actually sign up for the mailing list that when they come up with a new update, they'll email you and say, well, there's a new update, so you don't have to check it. So that's for you uber robot nerds out there. This might be a helpful tool. And that's all I have. And I've got
You got a question?
With questions. What questions do you guys have? Oh, let me scroll down here. What happens if your Lions team is not qualified to compete or doesn't show up? So, Rachel, great question. So here's what I will tell you. When you highlight all of those, let me say this. They don't print the match schedules until all the teams have showed up in the building. That's why you won't get it when you register. You'll get it once all the teams registered. So if there were supposed to be 40 teams at the event, only 34 showed up, those other 6 will be removed from the schedule and they'll print off a current list. So if there's 34 now at the event, when you get your match schedule, those are the only teams that will be on that schedule. So you won't fear that a team didn't show up to the event. However, I don't know if this is part of your question, but it is possible that a team is off getting snow cones or at the skills match or in the stands, and they're supposed to be partnered with you. The best advice I can give you is, and this doesn't always happen because sometimes you have matches back to back very quickly. Do your best to try to find those 8 teams where their pits are. Go talk to them before and say, hey, we're matched up before. We're matched up in match 17. Let's meet right here in the pit area before the match, and we'll walk to queuing together. So I usually say is do your best to try to find them beforehand and have a meeting place, or at least walk together to the queuing. The event will do their best to make sure they don't skip over any matches. They will wait only so long, but eventually you'll have to move on. And if an alliance partner does not show up, worst case scenario, you'll drive by yourself and that team doesn't get your score. Am I saying that right, Randy?
That's correct. There is one exception to that. If for some reason there's no way you're going to make that match because you're working on it, you're fixing something like that. If one of your drive team members, if they show up to that match and are just standing there, the team could still get credit. But somebody has to show up.
Yep. It doesn't happen too often. I can't even remember how many matches we had at state, but we're talking hundreds, and we got every single team to compete. So All right, let's see here. I have a question. Do we have to program? No, you do not have to program. So there's 3 different ways to play. There's the teamwork challenge, which everyone will do, and that's 8 matches. But then there's off to the side, there's the skills challenge, which I recommend and encourage you to do. At skills, there's the driver skills and there's the programming skills. For driver skills, it's just your robot from the teamwork challenge. There's just not another robot on the field. But for skills autonomous or skills programming, you do have to program your robot. And if you remember, I'm just going to pull up that manual again. If you remember, that's not it. That's not it. That's not it. That's not it. I don't know where it is. But if you remember the field, here it is. I'm going to just pull up the field. You can program your robot as simple as drive forward and stop and get 1 point this year. You remember at the training, I'll go up to the very top. Sorry. Throw out other questions out there in the chat, please, while I'm doing this. If you guys have any other questions, ask, please. I'm done here.
While he's doing that, your brain, the robot brain comes with programs already written in to do the FlexBot and the other bots. I mean, there's nothing you need to do; just hook them up and it will work.
Yeah. Yep. And this is what I was getting at for this year's challenge. You could park your robot, hit start, it drives 6 inches and stops, and it's in the park zone. Done. I got 1 point. And all I'm telling you is that's not very glamorous. It's silly, and you should probably be able to do more than that. But I'm just telling you, it is that simple to get 1 point in skills this year. Drive forward and stop. Done. And I think your kids can do that and go, oh my gosh, we could drive forward and turn left and maybe push one of these hubs in there. Great. You can actually do multiple programs where one program would drive forward, push this hub, and then you could actually physically and back away, so you're not touching the hub anymore. Your kids can physically pick it up, put it back to start, drive forward, and stop. So they just push the hub in there, and they park the robot. Done. Any other questions?
Well, I was gonna say real quick too. One thing if you try and do skills if you possibly can, because at the end of the season, for any unused state spots, that's where those teams are coming from.
Mm-hmm. Hey, so on these last few minutes, the only thing I would say very quickly, Mike, very easy. FlexBot, build the FlexBot. Yep. The FlexBot is, and now, if you read my little criteria, I don't know where that went. Here it is. Mike, I would suggest reading this. That answers your question. Okay. I'll just leave this up while I talk. But I would build FlexBot and I would modify it with a little bulldozer in front. That's what I would do if I was you. Here's what I'm going to say in my last few words is, going back to that stress graph. I hope my dogs are saying hello to the neighbors, I guess. My last few words to you is just to remind you that there's the stress of the year is in my opinion, the most stressful leading up to a competition, which we're all starting to approach. Competition started this last Saturday. Some of you are going to start seeing competitions or attending a competition in December, which is really only like a month away here. So this is the most stressful time. If you're feeling nervous, you're freaking out, everyone is nervous and freaking out. That's common. Until you get through your first event, you're going to feel so much more comfortable after your first event. So all of the feelings you have, everyone everywhere, all over the world has the same concerns. And we have these little Q&As to try to help relieve a little bit of stress. You all have my phone number. Feel free to call me or email me questions. I'm here to help. Randy's here to help. So we just want to make sure that you feel comfortable. So always feel like you guys can ask questions. But my biggest advice for all of you that have already formed your team and are having practices and you have your robot kit, please sign up for a competition because they're all going to fill up soon. So you have to sign up for a competition as soon as possible. I know I've said it at the training. A lot of people like to wait until the robot's built. Your event will be gone if you wait till the robot's built. You have to sign up now. If you have a team, you have your robot, not built, just the robot kit, because I know there's a few of you waiting on a robot still. sign up for an event. So all I've got. It's 4:59. Randy and I love getting done on time. So any other questions, shoot them out. Otherwise, I'm going to say goodbye to everybody. Randy, thank you so much for your help.
Sure thing.
Any other questions? All right, I'm going to post this on the, I know some of you said that you're not on Coach's Corner, but I'm going to post this recording on Coach's Corner in case anyone missed out. So if you joined us late, the whole thing will be on Coach's Corner. All right, doesn't seem like there's any other questions. I'll say have a good evening. Happy Halloween on Wednesday. Take care, everyone. All right, bye.